Welcome to the next day. Yes, that's right. It's only been a day. There's no way it possibly could have been almost 2 years. Uh, yeah. Well, no, in our little world, it's June 13th, 2015. Uh, Obviously, it really has been 2 years. I was looking back at the date for the first videos, and I realized that this was like within 10 days of posting that video. Like 10 days or like a week or two later, within that time frame, was when my life completely changed. And it's been a whirlwind of 2 years, and I quit my job, and I moved to a new place, and everything is completely different and new and exciting. Oh, here we go. Here's the transport section coming by and flyby and a break. J52 and the C47. And there's the start of the break. And then C47 will break in just a moment here. There's his lights. And he starts turning. So they're going to circle the land. So it's been 2 years, but I looked back and I really wanted to complete this series. The whole reason for doing this was I really wanted to film these videos, specifically the B-17s flying around formation, just because I thought that would look really cool, and it's something you don't see a lot in videos. There's a lot of videos of the A2A B-17s out there, but not necessarily doing things in groups. So I wanted to finish this project. That is one of my, I guess you could call it a New Year's resolution, but just a recent resolution to wrap up some of my old projects and actually make some progress, because I really haven't been creative lately. So back to our fantasy world, you can see we've been walking around Geneseo Airport here, looking at all the parked aircraft that are here for the air show. Cruising by the B-24 right now. We saw a couple of AN-2s back there. There was some Stearmans. Here we are. This is Fighter Row. There's 2 Corsairs and 2 Sky Raiders and a P-47, excuse me, down at the end. So they're very neat. On the other side, there was, I said the Stearmans. There was a, what is that, C-45, the Beach C-45. And PBY parked there. Oh, and the AC-130 gunship. We'll see that again in a minute. Here we go. Here comes the Ju-52 on final. And we'll watch him land, and we can see, is that I think that's the C-47 out in the distance, also circling. So, while the Ju was landing, I just wanted to digress for a minute back to my motivations for wanting to complete this project. I know that Let's Play type videos for a flight sim or any type of simulator are generally, they tend to be long and boring. Not a lot happens. That's just the nature of these games. They're kind of time sucks. But they're fun when you're playing or if you have an interest. But the thing is, I wanted to get this done and have a clear conscience. I have something to look back on and say, look, I actually completed this, and then feel good about moving on to do new things. So really what it comes down to is it doesn't matter to me if anyone even ever watches this or not. I will just know that it's done, and I can always watch it myself if I wanted to. But I don't like to make things that have poor production value, so I made an effort to move the pacing along by adding lots of exterior shots, which I think look really beautiful. Here's a close-up of the nose art for 909, which is going to be our lead ship in the B-17 formation today. 909 is a real B-17 that still flies the airshow circuits today. Here's our number 2, Scheherazade, named after the storyteller from 1001 Nights. Scheherazade flew with the 709th Bomb Group, survived the war, flew back to the U.S., and was eventually scrapped out in Arizona. And here comes our C-47 in for what I'm sure is going to be a perfect soft landing. And the JU has parked. And the DC-3 is coming up to park next to him as we're walking by, trying not to get hit. So as you can see, pretty busy day here at Geneseo. Lots of planes, the weather's beautiful. It's another 85-degree day again. We'll probably get hotter as the day goes on. And as we pass back under the wing here of Scheherazade, we're heading down the line of B-17s to our own, because it's time to fire up the engines and take off for our own segment. So we see 909 again here. The original 909 flew with the 91st Bomb Group and was scrapped after the war. This current B-17 that now bears the markings was actually built too late to see combat and was a firebomber for many years before being bought by the Collings Foundation in Stowe, Massachusetts. Number 338812, this was a B-17 that flew with the 457th Bomb Group. They crashed in England in Great Rollright in 1944 after being diverted in bad weather coming back from a mission. Everyone on board was killed except for one guy. And here we are back at our own Boston bombshell once again. So now it's time to climb on board and get these engines fired up because we have a demonstration to run. Alright, welcome back to the cockpit of Boston Bombshell. We got a lot to do, so we're going to get right down to business. First of all, it's 85 degrees out. My crew is telling me that the cabin is warm. That's probably a huge understatement, so I'm going to go ahead and open up these windows. You can see the windows are all fogged up because it's probably hot as the dickens in here. Great. And, turning my batteries on and my inverter. We have plenty of volts. And we got to get the radios going because I'm waiting for a call from the flight leader. So while waiting for him, I'm going to begin my checklist. Let's see.
B-17 flight, check in please.
Number 2 checking in.
3 checking in.
4's with you.
Great, got everyone on the first try. B-17 flight, start engines.
Alright, so we're just going to get right into it. Fuel is, we have 50% fuel for all 4 engines. Parking brakes are set. Flaps and gear handles, or switches I should say, are in neutral. Both of them. Batteries are on. All 3 batteries. The inverter is on. Start APU, that is not necessary. Our hydraulic pressure is 0, so we're going to hit the manual on that. Once it reaches 200 pounds, it takes over and is now an automatic. Fuel switches open. 2, 3, 4. Air filters are filtered. There's amber. Cabin heat set to cold. Master ignition is on. I'm also going to open our cowl flaps. Cowl flaps are coming up. Returning them to the locked position. Alright. Manifold selector pressure is 0. I'm turning all the mags on. All of the mixtures, we'll put them on auto rich. And setting high RPM on all 4 propellers. Move the co-pilots section here. So, magnetos are, this is for engine 3. We're going to do engine 3 first. Engine 3. Magnetos are on. Fuel. Coming up. Fuel pressure is good. Open cowl flaps, they are open. We're going to crack the throttle a little bit. Throttle's cracked. High RPM set. Fire extinguisher is set. We're going to hit the starter. Give it one spurt.
Air prop.
And start.
Engine 3 is starting up. Oil pressure is rising.
Yes, it is. And we're right at 1,000. Perfect. Turn on the generator for 3. Generator's up. Repeat for 4. Fuel pressure coming up. Magnetos are in both. Cowl flaps are open. High throttle, high RPM. Give it a start. Give it a squirt.
Clear prop.
And push.
Engine 4 starting. Oil pressure is coming up.
Yep. Fuel pressure for 1 is up. Also going to give these intercoolers over to the co-pilot.
Yes, sir, I have them.
Clear prop.
Engine 1 starting.
Yeah, good. Oil pressure is...
Oil pressure is coming up.
Clear prop.
Engine 2 is starting up. Oil pressure is rising.
Perfect. Let's get our beacon on and our position lights. And we'll do headphones on.
Flight lead, this is 2. Engines are up to temperature, ready to go.
Yeah, they're ready to go. That was fast. We are not quite ready, but close. A couple more degrees. Alright, I want to check my freedom of control, so we got to turn our control locks off. There's one. There's rudder and elevator. Rudders are good.
Flight, this is 3. We're ready to go as well.
Let's get our generators on. Setting altimeter. Hydraulic pressure is in the green. All generators and batteries are on. Tail wheel is unlocked. Red light, correct. Landing gear light, green, is locked. Propellers are high. Fuel's good. Intercoolers are cold.
B-17 flight, this is flight leader. Beginning taxi for runway 5.
And our fuel pressure is 12 to 16, which they are, so that's good. Oil pressure is between 70 and 80. Oh, that's during the run-up. All right. Come on, textures, load, please. Okay, so we see 909 taxiing out again. He is our number 1. That is our flight leader. Number 2, he's in the background, Scheherazade. And then over here, number 3 is our 812, and we are number 4, tail end Charlie.
Captain, warmed up, ready to go.
Flight leader 4 is warmed up and ready to go. You can see they've got their windows open too. Everybody. Oh, here's 812 coming out. C-130.
B-17 flight, this is 909. As you know, I'll be your flight leader today. I know we all paid attention at the briefing this morning, but I'd like to just reiterate once again to make sure we're all on the same page. Last year we had a pilot, who shall remain nameless, who made a left instead of a right and got lost and couldn't find the formation. So this year we've taken steps to prevent that by making that particular pilot your flight leader today. I assure you that it was only a tiny lapse of concentration, and I'm confident that somewhere between 50 and 75% of you will make it back to the airport this morning.
Yeah, that's reassuring.
We will be departing runway 5 with winds from 067 at 8 knots. We will turn right, not left, but right, do a course of 120 and climb to 3,100 feet to clear the area for the next act. We will rendezvous over Canandaigua and turn right after that to follow Lake Keuka. We'll proceed down the lake to our scheduled flyover of the Curtis Museum, then circle back around to Geneseo for our scheduled flybys in our allotted time slot. Once again, that is 3 flybys, and number 4 will be an overhead break. Please remember the pyrotechnics on flyby 3. I think that covers everything for now. I'll be in contact with the air boss and relay instructions to the flight for the duration.
So we're going to do a quick sequential takeoff here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, like he said, we're going to turn right, and then we're all going to hook up over Canandaigua, and then we'll get in formation. And then we're heading down to the Curtis Museum. They've got a small gathering there, and since we're going to be out and about anyways, and we've got some time to kill before our actual flyby time, other acts, like we're going to take off. Some other acts are going to do some stuff. I don't know if it's the T6s or who, but somebody else is going to actually do some flybys, and then our scheduled time, we'll circle back around and do our 4 passes and then land. Better close these windows up here in a second. I'll do it right now. Windows are secured.
B-17 flight. We are cleared for sequential takeoff, departure to the east. 109 is rolling.
And there goes number 1.
R3 is rolling.
Two is rolling.
Landing lights on. Cowl flaps 33%. Tail wheel is locked. Turbo is 8. Throttles to full. 4 is rolling.
The engines are getting a bit warm. 80. And rotate.
Gear up. Setting 38 inches, 2,300 RPM.
Tail wheel is up. Main wheels are up.
Landing lights off. And cowl control to
Yes,
co-pilot.
Captain, I've got him.
And we're coming up on 3,000 feet, so I'm going to level us off. And I'm going to keep it firewalled for a minute. We got to try to catch up with these other bombers. I believe that right there. Canisius Lake. Passing, or just passed over the town of Lakeville at the top of that. Here's the next Finger Lake. Just out here, where my pointer is, that should be Canandaigua Lake, and this should be the town of Canandaigua at the top of it. Oop. We're continuing to climb accidentally. Alright, so we're coming up on Canandaigua. We've caught up with the others. I'm going to pull these turbos way back. I'll leave them on 2. This low, I should probably turn them off, but, well, I'm going to use the throttles to maintain formation and just keep the turbos stationary, which is counter to how you would do it at altitude. But I get better speed control using the throttles. So Canandaigua is a beautiful town. Not very big, but lovely. It's got a nice kind of upstate New York-y main street that I like. They have a really good German restaurant. Just off to our 11 o'clock somewhere, on the far side of town, maybe over here somewhere, is the the Sprint Track Speedway where Tony Stewart killed that kid last year. Or 2 years ago, I forget when. That's where it happened. Like 1 and 3 have grouped up, 2's lagging a little behind, and we're a little behind.
Light, turning right for Cuca. Turn my boost pumps off.
towards Lake Keuka. We can see it there ahead of us. It's shaped kind of like a tuning fork. Off to the right there is one of the forks, and we're heading towards the other one. At the top of the lake is the town of Penyan, which is fun to say. And the Penyan Airport is there. Airport, municipal, I forget what the hell it's called. But there is a large paved runway airport there, 2 runways that we're going to go right by. Flight leader, I'm assuming, will contact traffic there to just let them know that we'll be passing through. And then over there, off to the left, that's our big Lake Cayuga, Route 14 going down it, part of the wine trail, one of the wine trails in the area. That's where my meadery is that I love going to. I believe I mentioned it last time on the way in, the last video.
B-17 flight, starting our descent and a right turn down to the lake.
There's Penyan Airport. We can see the lights.
Just a note, we are clear of all traffic from Penyan Airport. Repeat, traffic is not affected.
Head down and get right down into the lake, right near the water. That's Route 54 on our left there, going down the coastline of the lake. Bouncing around, a little scary, trying to hold formation in that.
B-17 flight, a little bumpy there, but cleared up nicely.
So I mentioned we're on our way to do a flyover at the Curtis Museum down in Hammondsport, and I thought while we're zooming along the lake, I might take a few minutes to talk about Glenn Curtis and why he's important and some of his accomplishments in the aviation world. He's most well known as the father of naval aviation. And that is because he was the one that really petitioned the Navy to embrace aviation. The Curtis Pusher, one of his early aircraft, both landed and took off from the battleship Pennsylvania's flight deck. Or rather, it was a makeshift flat flight deck that they put on the Pennsylvania, and there's famous pictures of that. That was his aircraft and kind of his idea. He also was the first manufacturer to produce flying boats and pontooned flying boats here in America.
Flight, be advised we're going to make a bit of a right turn here to stay with the contour of the lake.
Curtiss was born in 1878 in Hammondsport. In fact, he ended up staying there for most of his life. That's where he based his company. That's where he built his prototypes. He test flew them right here on the lake. He was originally a bicycle shop owner, similar to the Wright brothers, which is funny because he and the Wright brothers ended up becoming the most bitter of enemies. The Wright brothers, after their initial flight, spent the next decade or two mostly worried about people infringing on their patents. So they went around suing everybody who built an airplane and came up with a new invention because they thought that people were stealing their ideas. So they were more worried about protecting their patents than actually producing airplanes, which is why during that early golden age of pioneering flight, the Wrights barely built anything, and they got left behind by everyone else who came out with new innovations because they were more worried about these lawsuits. Well, one of the people that they sued was Glenn Curtiss. Glenn Curtiss invented the movable flap-type aileron that we use today. The Wrights did not use ailerons; they used a wing warping mechanism to turn their plane, but they felt that it was close enough that they could sue Curtiss on grounds of copyright infringement. So that started a bitter feud that lasted until they all died. They hated each other for the entirety of their lives. It must have been both hilarious and satisfying. When the first pilot's license were issued, Glenn Curtiss got license number 1 ahead of Wilbur Wright at number 5, and that's because the Aero Club of America, when they issued these first licenses as a batch, they presented them in alphabetical order. And so therefore C comes before W, so Curtiss got the first one, and I'll bet Wilbur Wright just hated that. Curtiss ended up getting the last laugh though, because in 1929, after Wilbur Wright had finally died, Curtiss acquired the Wright's company and merged it with his own to become Wright Curtiss. That was in 1929. Curtiss himself died the following year in 1930, but not before he got to see his competition's company under his own control. Wright Curtiss, of course, would go on in the 30s and 40s to make both engines, propellers, the P-40 Tomahawk, as well as the C-46. In fact, a C-46 is what the Curtiss Museum has mounted on concrete blocks out at the road at the entranceway to the museum. So, and we're going to see that coming up just shortly here as we approach the museum. We're going to see the C-46 down right next to the road, and that's going to be our aiming point for this flyby.
Alright, flight, Curtiss Museum is coming up directly ahead of us. Let's keep that formation tight and make it look good for the pictures, alright? climb back up out of this valley now, and then we will make our right turn eventually to head back towards Geneseo. So as we climb off to our left, we will see the bottom of Lake Cayuga, and at the bottom of that lake is Watkins Glen. And just outside of town is Watkins Glen International Raceway.